silence quietly settled inside the Everhart mansion. Everyone's eyes naturally turned towards Sweetie. Although both families had already discussed the marriage, there was still one answer that mattered the most. Her answer. Grandma smiled kindly before looking at Sweetie. Sweetie, she continued with a warm smile. Do you agree to this marriage? The room became completely quiet. Sweetie slowly lowered her eyes. She remained silent for a few moments. Not because she didn't know the answer, but because there was someone whose opinion mattered deeply to her. She slowly lifted her head. Her calm eyes searched for only one person. Preeti. A faint smile appeared on Sweetie's face. She looked at her younger sister with complete trust. Whatever my Preeti says, she smiled a little more. I will do. For a brief second, everyone inside the living room became surprised. David quietly looked towards Preeti. Grandma smiled knowingly. Mr. and Mrs. Everhart simply exchanged gentle smiles. They weren't surprised because they already knew this was how their daughters had always been. Preeti blinked twice. She had not expected Sweetie to place such an important decision in her hands. She looked toward her sister, then gently smiled. Sis, she slowly walked closer. Can I talk to you alone for a moment? Sweetie smiled and nodded without hesitation. Of course. Preeti and Sweetie quietly walked into another room. The door closed behind them, leaving the two sisters alone. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Preeti slowly looked at her sister, then smiled softly. Sis, she walked a little closer. Don't answer because of me, she continued. This is your future, not mine. Sweetie smiled, a peaceful, almost comforting smile. She gently held Preeti's hands. Silly girl. She looked directly into Preeti's eyes. If I didn't want this marriage, no one could force me. She smiled again. I already liked him before. She squeezed Preeti's hands lightly. I only wanted you to know first. Preeti stared quietly at her sister. Little by little, her worried expression disappeared. A warm smile slowly replaced it. Without saying another word, she gently hugged Sweetie. A few moments later, the bedroom door slowly opened. Preeti and Sweetie walked back into the living room together. Everyone quietly looked toward them. No one spoke. No one wanted to interrupt the sisters' decision. Preeti looked at her parents, then at Grandma. Finally, she smiled warmly. We agree. She continued gently, because she turned towards Sweetie and smiled. Sis has loved him for a long time. The atmosphere inside the living room immediately became brighter. Mr. Everhart smiled. Mrs. Everhart let out a quiet sigh of relief. Grandma's face lit up with happiness. Even David smiled politely. Grandma slowly stood up. She looked lovingly toward the Everhart family. Thank you. She smiled warmly. We'll treasure her as our own family. Mr. Everhart nodded with appreciation. We're entrusting our daughter to your family. Mrs. Everhart gently held Sweetie's hand. Her eyes were filled with both happiness and a mother's quiet emotion. She smiled instead of crying. After a pleasant conversation, Grandma smiled again. Then she looked around the room. 2 days from now, she continued happily, we'll hold the engagement ceremony. Everyone smiled. The date had finally been decided. The conversation gradually became more relaxed. Preeti slowly walked toward David. A bright smile appeared on her face. She politely extended her hand. Congratulations. David smiled politely before shaking her hand. Preeti laughed softly. When I met you before, she smiled even brighter. I never imagined, she chuckled quietly, I'd be calling you my brother-in-law so soon. For a brief moment, David simply looked at her. Then, a small smile slowly appeared on his face. He didn't say anything, He simply shook her hand gently. Pretty smiled once more before letting go. She happily returned to stand beside Sweetie, completely unaware that the simple words she had just spoken would one day become painful for both of them.